We are live. Well, we're not live. We're recording. Hello, my name is Rue. I am the owner of Be At One Dog Training, and with me is.
I'm Lexi at DOG Hertfordshire Training School in Hertfordshire, funnily enough.
But streaming from France. How lucky are we? Very, very lucky that you'd take time out. Thank you very much. So the reason we're here today was this is something that myself and Lexi have spoken a lot about with each other and with lots of other trainers. It's something that we feel passionate about. We are here to speak today about human emotions and how they can hinder us during dog training, dog ownership, and maybe even dictate or push us into getting a dog that we might not necessarily have the capacity for. Um, so there's so many different ways we can go about this conversation, which we've learned, haven't we, Lexi? We've spoken at detail, in so much detail about it, but we're going to try it and focus on the training side of things. So there's a lot of things that go around where people will consider things to be evil or controversial, and actually these things could be life-saving, these training techniques. So an example of that would be possibly like crate training. So I know that me and Lexi were just speaking about how when I had my last dog, who unfortunately passed away due to cancer, he was crate trained from as soon as I got him, very early in his life. And when he got sick with his cancer, he had to have quite a major operation, which actually meant that he was in an animal hospital for 3.5 days, where he was lived within this cage in the vets. And if this dog wasn't taught to be content and happy and feel safe in a confined space and a confined environment, and if he wasn't taught that he didn't need me 24/7, this could have gone quite badly, and it could have been quite stressful for him, for the vets, for myself, if I had decided to go down the route of crates are evil and cages are evil and they're this and they're that, putting the human emotion on the dog when actually dogs are quite happy dead animals. I'm sure I'm sure you use crates or have used crates with your dogs in the past, Lex.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that it's the same as everything else. There is always a danger to overuse or to abuse anything. And the crate is no different. I have known animal hoarders who took way too many dogs on. They had good intentions, but they didn't know how to train them, and they ended up with dogs pretty much being crated 23 hours of every day. And yes, absolutely. That is way beyond what it needs to be. But when used reasonably for normal amount of time, either for management or just to get a dog used to it, it's just such a brilliant thing. A dog being created at the back of a car is already a very handy thing. I remember a friend years ago whose dog, as she opened the boot, yes, you can teach your dog to not jump out, but as she opened the boot, the dog got excited, legged it, and went across a dual carriageway. Thankfully, didn't get hurt. But if the dog had been in a crate, then you would have already lowered that danger. So, dogs who are used to being crated and it's been done right, they literally run in there. And you can leave the door open and they go, I'm happy here. It's no different just because there's a bit of wire above their bed. It's just, it can be you can call it a cage, but it doesn't stop the fact that when they're at the vets or, you might go on holiday. And so personally, when the dogs are young, if I had to leave the dog in the hotel room, which I probably wouldn't do for very long, but maybe I'll go to the hotel lobby, or maybe I'll go somewhere where it's too hot and I think the dog would be better off staying behind. It saves me from taking the risk of the dog peeing on the carpet or wrecking the bed. And so if I can't do all of those things, then maybe I wouldn't take them with me when they're young, because I would think, oh, what if they do this? So it's the same as everything else, it can be abused, but used properly, it's an absolutely incredible tool, really incredible tool.
Yeah, and that just shows the difference with any tool really, because you can abuse a collar and lead, right? There are stories of people that have done horrible things to abuse their dogs, whether it be hitting or hanging or yanking and pulling in like abusive ways. There you can use anything, any tool that is aimed at dogs can be used in an abusive manner. And so that is spot on in highlighting that basically anything, of course, it can be abused, but actually it can be life-saving. Also, there are many occasions where dogs use them for a safe haven. There's been times when I've gone to people's houses for dog training, and they'll say, when the dustbin truck comes, they're scared of the sound, so the dog runs in the crate. Or when you're overwhelmed with company and the dog feels overwhelmed and they want to hide, they run in the crate, and then you put the blanket over the crate so they can just kind of switch off from the world. Also, something that we spoke quite a lot about over the weekend was the importance of just sleeping and that dog having that allocated place to rest. Instead of just letting your dog just go everywhere, the dog doesn't need a bed. It can sleep on the sofa, it can sleep on the bed and whatever, like as in the human bed. When actually, if you're not giving that dog that designated space to feel safe and secure in, you're probably doing more harm than good. And it doesn't always have to be a crate. It can be a confined space. We've spoken about my dog. I don't have the space to sacrifice for a crate. However, those who have met my dog will know that. However, she knows how to go in the kitchen, so that when she did have to go to the vets and she had both of her back legs done, she had a double TPLO. There's no crates in the vets, in any vet that she's ever been. There's no, they haven't got a big enough crate in there. So she's been given a room, a suite. And she's been completely fine because she doesn't rely on me 24/7. I go to work, I leave her at home alone in the daytime. She stays in a different room when I'm sleeping. She's safe, she feels content without me, and it just allowed her to be safe and relaxed when she was healing from that TPLO. And that is just one of 1,000 examples of how we can humanize something. Like, oh, I wouldn't put a person in a cage. Minimal benefit to the person being in a cage, when actually there's an abundance of benefits, so many benefits to having a dog that is crate trained. And just this attitude of what is human appropriate and what is dog appropriate, and how it seems to be mixing as if dogs and humans are the same. It's just so concerning, and it's causing so many issues in the dog training world. We're both dog trainers. We're going to people's houses and we're hearing people don't want to put in boundaries or use particular tools, or any tools. They only want their dogs to be in a harness because all of a sudden now collars are evil, they're abusive or whatever. When really if they're just not abused, these items are just not abused, well, actually, they're just fantastic and safe items to use.
And actually, one of my dogs find harnesses really aversives.
It's a good point as
And
well.
coats, and
Yeah.
coats, put a harness on a coat. And I've never done anything bad with the harness. I've put it on. I said, "Come on, let's go jogging." And she's like, "Oh, harness." And it's a working gun dog who's used to a slip lead.
Yeah, exactly. It's slip
Slip
lead,
lead.
something that some people
Let's
would
go.
quite exactly.
Yes.
Like, oh
Oh,
my gosh, a slip lead. But when
how
actually
aversive.
a working gun dog.
For who? Exactly.
Say again.
Aversive, but aversive for who? In whose
Exactly,
eyes?
exactly that. And the things that people would let their dogs do, but then you say to them, okay, but do you put in boundaries? Again, humans and dogs are different, but do you put in boundaries with your children? The answer
Mhm.
is yes. So why would you not put in boundaries with an animal in your house?
Absolutely. And I told you the story about this lady who had all sorts of issues with her rescue dog, and she was the sweetest lady. And I mean, he jumped up, he stole food, he could never be off lead. And there was just a myriad of issues that some people like to call quirks, but it was just making her life a misery. And I said to her, "You're going to have to put boundaries if you want your dog to feel more secure and content, and if you want this relationship to blossom, you're going to have to put boundaries, and you will actually do the dog a favor." And she said, "Oh, it's funny, because I organize foster families for humans. And the first thing we tell them is just because they're children who are in foster care doesn't mean to say they need to have every freedom. And actually, some boundaries in their life give them security to know what I can and can't do, to go, oh, well, actually, I feel much safer knowing that." So, yeah, absolutely. Lack of boundaries, just, because we're worried about upsetting the dog. actually can cause so much more issues than not putting any. So absolutely.
Yeah, and what was that dog? What was it? Why was you called out? What was the issues?
Oh, well, that was just a total lack of control. I mean, it literally didn't take her seriously at all, you know. It could have been, I can't actually remember the dog's name. It might have been something like Boo, but it would be Boo, sit, Boo, do this, Boo, come back. No, no, don't jump up. Can't be left on its own. There was just
Chaos.
everything. As far as the dog was concerned, the lady, as sweet as she was not much of a mentor. It wasn't much of there was no guidance from her, you know, it was just this big, oh, poor dog. And she almost lowered herself to the, not lowered, because I don't really like this word, but she was almost like, oh, this poor dog he's had such a terrible past, you know. But actually, unwittingly, she was just keeping this dog in this place herself
Yeah,
by not going, okay, so you've had all this bad stuff happening, but now you're in my house. And when you're in my house, you do this and you don't do that. And then they're going, oh, I feel nice with you. I know where I'm going.
feel safe
So
and
it was,
eat
I
safe.
mean, it was no special huge, it didn't kill anyone, but it was really difficult to live with. And I don't suspect it was that easy for her to ever take it anywhere because it was just a difficult dog to live with.
And isn't that whole interest that's really interesting with the whole, oh, this poor dog's backstory, perpetuating this behavior, this mindset, this constant whatever was going on from the dog. So if the dog's pulling, it's stressed. The dog's pulling, it wants to get somewhere and it's not getting there far enough. And then you're going to get stressed as the owner. Whereas if we just, you know, you're happy to live in this, oh, this poor dog. I'm not speaking about this person in particular. I'm just talking about
Yeah.
people, especially people that have gotten dogs from rescues. They've got, it's like they want to be a part of the dog's suffering almost in not in a bad way. Their heart's in the right place. Their heart's in the right place, but they just, oh, this poor baby. And they're constantly trying to make up for something that the dog actually doesn't remember. The dog's not thinking about it. The dog's just like, well, you know, where's my next treat? Where's my next walk, my next toilet break, my next dinner? It's not thinking about anything other. It's not thinking about the complex history that you are forcing on this dog. I mean, you met Rafiki shortly after I got her. She had I think I was her eighth home, allegedly. And the way that I had got this dog was really unfortunate. The person that was fostering her, so to speak, as an informal fostering, someone had given it to the dog walker and just basically just said, rehome her. Um, didn't tell me the full story. So although the man knew I had a cat, he knew that there were children in my family. He knew that I was quite a small human and this is quite a big dog. He just failed to tell me about a lot of things that were the truth for this dog. And one of those alleged truths, because I've never had the proof, I've never spoken to any of the previous cat owners, but one of these alleged truths are that she has killed more than one cat. Now, I have a cat, and another one of these alleged truths are she was a serious resource guarder. I didn't experience the resource guarding. I did experience her try to get my cat. And this was a cat that was also from rescue, a cat that I vowed to look after for the rest of its days from the rescue centre when I took it home. And now all of a sudden, my household feels unsafe. It feels chaotic. It feels out of control. And when I phoned the person and said, oh, this happened last night, it's the first night I've had her, he actually said, oh, you know, that's actually not, it's not a surprise. I just wanted you to give her a fair chance. And you wouldn't, and you see how that human emotion nearly cost a life. It could have cost a life. It could have hurt me. You know, she could have run into, you've seen the size of this dog. She ran into me. It would have hurt, right? She could have got the cat. She could have resource guarded against, I don't know, a child walking past her when she's eating or something like that. Because I'm thinking she's this fine dog and whatever. And because of the human emotion, that man wanted me to give, that man wanted me to have this dog. He wanted me to give her a chance because he knew I was good with dogs. You nearly cost them lives.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that do stuff like this when they get rescue dogs from rescue. I'm sure you would have heard the sob stories, you know, oh, this dog's gone through this, and I just had to save it. But then they're not set up to save it. You know, you've got this Romy rescue that's come from overseas, been in a van for 3 days, and now you're bringing it into your family when you've got a baby and three other like bigger kids and whatever. And then all of a sudden you're calling the rescue, you holding your children up because this dog's trying. This happens. Like this is real life stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is coming from the right place because people see these pictures, on social media as a good thing, but actually has also made things worse in a way. They see this and they're like, oh, this poor dog, look at this sweet little face. Oh, I need to help. And I've been in that situation, I've wanted to take on more than I could. And I have taken on more dogs than I should. But I haven't taken the dogs that I knew my setup couldn't cope with. Not even necessarily the knowledge, but I just didn't have the setup. There was too many things,
Yep.
that could go wrong, and that for that dog or for us. So it's nice to want to help, but we've really got to put a logic head on and go, okay, especially, we were talking about this earlier, how nowadays so many rescues prohibit the use of
They
aversive.
make you sign contracts, some of them.
Yeah, and of course anything can be aversive according to them, including a flat collar. And
Yeah.
I'm sure I told you about a lady who got a dog. I can't remember what country it was from. It might be Macedonia. I can't remember where it was from. She took this enormous dog on. Actually, it was a pretty cool dog. Not many issues at all, other than he pulled like a small pony. And the result of being told that she couldn't use anything other than harness is that she didn't walk it until I turned up. And I think it'd been 3 or 4 months that the dog barely got walked because she literally couldn't. It didn't matter if it was a front harness or this harness and an on-pull harness. She literally couldn't hold on to it because the second she took hold, it just went. And she just couldn't, let alone going off lead and all this kind of stuff. But she couldn't because she was told you cannot have anything on it. God forbid a head collar, God forbid anything else. So, and again, with her head, she's like, oh, yeah, yeah. But, if the rescue says other things must be aversive, there must be, because how would she know?
And why wouldn't she believe them? These are supposed to be the professionals. Why wouldn't she believe them?
Absolutely.
I would
And
believe
let's
them.
to say we use something else, and let's to say the dog got to walk every day for 45 minutes, an hour, and
Mhm.
however long the dog needed to be walked without the dog, dragging this poor lady who weighed like 8 stone wet, being dragged on her stomach. So,
It says aversive to who is the question, isn't it? Aversive to who? It's
and cost versus immediate cost versus what's going to happen later on.
yeah,
Yes, if I could just say to a dog, okay, you really need to walk to heel now, because otherwise you're going to get rehomed. I would, and if it understood, it'd be great. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't. So maybe, and I'm not talking about walking to heel necessarily or walking on a loose lead necessarily, but what is the cost of not fixing the
yes,
issue long term? What is the cost to
yeah.
this dog potentially life? I
That's
mean,
like
it's a sad state of affair, but it appears some people would rather a dog be euthanized, um, than some aversive.
crazy how that doesn't tab on your
I know,
emotions.
right? But I think we better not go down this
Yeah,
road today. We'll keep that for another
yeah,
day.
that'll be another conversation. But it
But
is crazy
yeah,
that someone would rather you put their dog to sleep rather than not put a slip lead on or not put them in a crate,
a head collar.
just
The
a
thing,
head collar on, or because it might burn their nose. I've never seen it. I'm sure it has happened, but I've never seen it before. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but yeah, you know,
I
it's
have seen,
evil.
I have seen some slight rubbing, and it was just the wrong fitting, ill-fitting head
There you
collar.
go.
Just
So it wasn't because of the tool, it was because of the human that put the tool on.
yeah,
Yeah.
and but how many dogs are we? So that means all the big strong dogs, they can only go with big strong men.
Well,
So
to
that's what we're
yeah,
confining it to. Can't go
I
with
head
a
collar.
nothing lady.
A head collar saved my life with Rafiki. She's 11 stone. She's 70 kg. When I got her, I was, I don't know, about 8 stone, 8.5 stone.
Yeah.
It was just a no-go. She has done me. She has pulled me down a hill chasing something before. A couple of times. If I didn't have that head collar, She wasn't wearing a head collar when she done me. But yeah, if I didn't have that head collar, there would be no training. There would head collars, but it's a management, right? It's a management tool, and I
And
use
that
it to
word,
manage
the
a
quick fix. Oh, God
not a quick
forbid you should
fix.
use a quick fix. You want to let the problem
Yeah.
drag on for at least 6 months.
Forever. Yeah, forever. And also these things, they're not quick fixes. It's management. It's something that I'm
Yeah.
putting it in place so I can survive. We need to survive. Yeah, I can't be dragged across the road by this mastiff. I cannot.
And reduce the chances of her, jumping up at
In
the wrong
herself.
person and
Yeah.
giving you a sense of control and a lot more control. I've walked through a town before, and nowadays, sadly, those harnesses are absolutely everywhere. And they seem to be replacing training. As long as it's got a harness, it seems they don't need training. And I kid you not, it was Dodge the Labradoodle who
Yeah.
was going to jump up at you. I kid you
Yeah.
not.
And you're a German Shepherd lady as well. So you're not a small dog. You're not a
No.
small dog owner. What I know
No.
your love
And
is German
I've
Shepherd.
loved it, and I've had very strong Labradors. When Elsa,
Amazing.
on sadly the only one we have left, when she came out of, I'm going to call it rescue, but as far as I know, there was nothing. She did come from rescue, but I don't think there was any ill treatment, for her. But she pulled like a machine. Absolutely, she would pull you into the next county all day long. And we managed it for a bit because I had another four rescue dogs back then, and I just didn't have time. So it was spend more time training the others and leave that one in rescue, or take another one and use a management tool for a while until I can invest more time.
Exactly.
And I didn't sign anything to say I wouldn't use anything
This is
because
a new thing.
back then, yeah, back then, thankfully, nobody told us that.
Yeah.
But there you go.
That is, it's yeah, it is crazy how aversive to who. It's just something that keeps ringing around in my head because what you said about the lovely lady that had the very big dog that was from rescue that she wasn't allowed to use aversives on or whatever the rescue considered to be an aversive, um, meant that that dog wasn't going out on walks. What a quality of life. Whereas we can put a head collar on, we can put some rewards in, we can put some boundaries in. We can say, actually, no, you're not doing that. You might want to do that, but that's not the best possible situation for us in this team. And now you can walk happy. So for that small amount, that small speed bump in their life where she had to introduce appropriate rewards, boundaries, management tools, and whatever, she now has a dog that's living its best life, going on walks. I remember when I got Rafiki and oh my God, there were baby gates everywhere. Oh, the trauma. There were baby gates everywhere. And I remember I had a lady come round who was going to be a dog walker. And she said to me, you got to get rid of them gates. I said, you what, mate? You what? She's like, yeah, you got to get rid of them gates. No, the cat will sort itself out. If the dog goes for the cat, she'll just sort herself out. I
Oh,
could not believe it. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. This person who's an alleged professional in the dog field, you're a walker. So that means you're a professional in the dog world, are telling me that I shouldn't protect my cat. That's what you're saying. Because you feel like it's evil. That's crazy.
wow.
It's not about
That's
feelings,
only
it's
a
about
baby
logic.
gate.
Baby gates, baby gates. They were
When they
baby
talk
gates.
about spray collars and
Oof,
all sorts of the other
honestly,
real evil stuff.
the baby gate was just the management. That was just to keep them separate. There was two baby gates. There was nothing. Didn't crack the top three of things that were used to manage this dog that people would cry over. Yeah, there was like rattle can training, so the sound aversion. There was spray collars, head collar as well to stop her from yanking me down the road. Then the check collars, the half checks. It just, and now I have these animals that live securely, safely, well trained, happy to live together. Now I'm in
For
a one
life.
bedroom
For
flat,
life.
alive,
Yeah,
alive.
yeah, but they're also with you for life
Yep.
because you've made the situation such that they're now able to stay with you, and you don't go, well, this is unmanageable, I've got to get rid of it. So we were talking about emotions in training and how that can be a real dangerous thing. And we were talking about anxiety, weren't we? That everything these days get labeled as anxiety. It's that
My
my dog
God.
barks, it's anxious. My dog pulls, it's anxious. My dog does this, it's anxious. It's anxious. It doesn't matter what you do, everybody has to throw this word around, anxiety. And so, I told you I had this the customer's dog who barked all day long. all day long. The people were indoors or not, didn't have separation anxiety. He barked. Went from one window to the next, went upstairs, barked from upstairs, from downstairs, barked at the door, barked everywhere all day long. That's pretty much all he did. And inevitably, the people just couldn't take much more. But they were very reluctant to do anything aversive. Um, but guess what? When we said to the dog, and actually the dog was genuinely anxious, and not only that, it also had psychotropic drugs to make it less anxious, which didn't work.
Wasn't working.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, I actually made it worse because he started to get anxious at other times that before he didn't get anxious at those times. So and so we just said, I'm sorry, you just can't do that. You're gonna have to stop. You're gonna have to be quiet. And guess what? The dog slept a lot more. And the dog went, oh, apparently I don't need to bark anymore. Phew. And actually the dog was a
Job
lot less
done.
anxious.
The
But
dog's
being
like, I've done my job.
don't do that, by the way. You just can't bark all day, my friend. It's just crazy.
I'm
So
not asking the world. Just be quiet.
emotion. This all emotion driven, poor dog. There must be a reason the dog barks all day long. Well, partly there wasn't that much of a reason. It kind of had become, oh, I hear something, I bark. Oh, I hear something, I bark. And this kind of,
Going
it had
everywhere.
made this circle of,
Yeah.
well, this is what I must have to do. Nobody told me not to.
And then you tell them not, you tell the dog not to. You probably use the consequence to tell the
Yeah,
dog, don't do that. Now the dog's living its best life,
yeah,
peaceful, quiet. It just at what cost? I just love that sentence that you said earlier on. I was thinking about again, and people say, I never leave the dog home alone, and never leave the dog home alone. And then I have to have conversations with people about, well, what happens when your backup plan, when it fails? As you said, Aunt Mary in the hospital earlier on. What if, Aunt Mary's been rushed to hospital? She needs someone. I've got to rush. Even if I have to call my sister, who lives 20 minutes away, to come
yeah,
to my dog, that 20 minutes, that dog's been on its own. And because you've never trained your dog to be home alone because you felt it was evil, now that dog is essentially in a torture chamber for 20 minutes
yeah,
because it's waiting and barking and pacing and drooling and whatever, dehydrating because it's so stressed out because this dog does not know how to cope alone. What is aversive? What is more
yeah.
aversive? Me telling my dog,
And you
actually,
can
you're gonna
you
wait.
can never say never, can you? Because
Exactly.
people's lives change. We know people's lives change. You get married, you have a baby, or you divorce, or you lose, God forbid, some of the horrible stuff happens, or we can never say,
Yeah,
I will
exactly.
never leave my dog alone. You just can't say that. It can happen.
You need to train your dog to be flexible. But you know what? There's also the other side of emotions with training. When people are when people are feeling really heavy, maybe they've had a really bad day or they've gone through a trauma or gone through a grief. I often, there was a couple that I worked with recently and they had a baby and they just had a baby. I can't remember many days it had been by the time I went round there for their second appointment. And they looked tired as new parents do. And I had to say that the man was taking on obviously most of the roles because mummy was doing what she needed to do for baby. And I had to say to him, he's like obviously feeling overwhelmed with trying to give this dog everything he was giving it before. And I'm saying it's not possible. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up falling into some really bad habits because you're going to be too tired to implement and be consistent with this and with that. So actually, when you are having these tired days or these we've got 9 minutes left before Zoom kicks us out. If you are having these tired and stressful days, you need to learn when to say, actually, today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cater to my dog's needs, and the rest can wait until I've had a rest. And when I say need, is your dog fed? Is your dog watered? Is your dog empty? Have they been to the toilet? Have they, do that. Don't try and do things when you're having this really stressful, because no one can be consistent when they're emotional. You can only be consistent when you work with logic. When you work with logic, you can apply consistency, but we can't always be logical when we haven't had certain things that we need as humans, which is sleep, which is the proper food when we're feeling well. So when you're feeling overwhelmed as a person, as an owner, you have to really think about what can I do to benefit my dog right now? And that is to just cater to its immediate needs. Your dog's fine sleeping. As long as you know, if you create patterns that are so embedded within the core of your day-to-day life, on those days when you're having a bad day or even a bad week, your dog's so used to a particular pattern, it goes out, it gets fed, goes and has a nap. If your dog's in this pattern where it's safe, content, trained, chilled, no matter how you're feeling, your dog's still going to be okay. Hope that ramble just made sense. I'm sure it did.
It
Yeah.
does. And if,
Yeah.
it might not make sense to everybody, but it'll make sense to the person who needed to hear it.
Oh, I love that. Thanks.
That's how I always think about it.
Yeah.
But somebody will go, "Oh, you're right."
And hopefully it makes people, because again, with all this emotions and people, the way people are made to feel, you got to put your dog in doggy daycare and you got to do this and you got to do this snuffle dog training and your dog's got to be entertained and you got to have these talking buttons and whatever. Just breathe, chill.
Yeah,
Your dog's a
yeah,
dog, doesn't need to be entertained, needs its needs met. And then you need to go and take care of yourself so that you can be a better dog owner tomorrow, a
absolutely.
human tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So I guess if that's something that I would really want someone to take away from today, it would be just that, like, your success will come from when you are able to apply logic more than emotion. And although we are going to have emotions, because we will never be 100% emotion free and just, we're not robots, but if you can do it most of the time, you will win. You'll absolutely win.
My the thing that I think people could do with doing a little bit more is don't overanalyze everything. Um, and remember that I hate to say it, but also I love to say it because it's true. Dogs are dogs and humans are humans, and we are different species with different needs. I don't care how you put it. We are not the same. I haven't dug up my garden looking for a bone, and I don't anticipate we will find many humans who do. I don't need to, we have different language, we have anything, which actually makes everything even more beautiful because the fact that we can have this amazing relationship with these beings who we don't even speak the same language to begin with, we're still able to have this incredible relationship. I mean, no disrespect to most humans, but I've had better relationship with a lot of my dogs, but then I've had with a lot of humans,
They're a lot
and
more
because
simple.
they just love you so much so unconditionally, and I love them exactly the same, but we have for that love to be real, we have to recognize their true need, and not get, carried away with all these human emotions that we apply to them. And don't think that buying them a fluffy jacket with their name on it is meeting their needs. Their needs are fairly simple, really.
Such simple creatures. I mean, I think I'd
Oh,
be willing to argue that most undesirable behaviors have probably come from unmanaged emotions. Do you know what I'm saying? I would say that most undesirable behaviors from dogs has come from some sort of emotion from humans, them thinking something's evil or something is
oh, it's a
wrong
quirk. Oh,
here,
it's a quirk. You
or
know
it's
me.
a
It's a
quirk.
quirk.
It's a quirk. It's not a behavioral concern. It's a
Yeah,
quirk.
yeah.
When
It's just
actually,
a quirk.
exactly, when actually, if we just think about the dog's needs rationally, it's treat a dog like a dog. Stop trying. The issues come in when we're trying to turn them into something they're not. They're
Hmm.
dogs and they're amazing because they're dogs and we love them because they're dogs. Stop overcomplicating it.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And of course, we can't generalize everything. There will always be nuances to everything. But I remember way back when dog training was actually a lot more simple than it is now. You didn't need puzzles to entertain the dogs, and you didn't need to think of every hour of every day and how you were going to entertain them. I think also perhaps we had a lot less working breeds that became pets, but that's a subject, there's a conversation for another time.
I think that is one for another time, actually. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, keep it simple and stop over analyzing things. Just and not every behavior, is due to anxiety, for the love of God.
The buzzword. It's the
Yeah,
buzzword of the
come
minute. It's very
on.
anxious. He's protecting me.
Oh, please. Stop calling your dog anxious at every opportunity. Because yeah, if you keep saying it, it will become true.
Yeah, it will be. And then they have to get a dog trainer out. God.
Yeah. Tell them hi.
Um, Lexi, if anyone wants to ever contact you because they think, hang on a minute, I like that lady's style, how do they do it?
The best way really is to contact us by email, which is Lexi, Lexi at topdoghearts.co.uk. Visit the website,
Yeah, yeah.
www. I don't know my website.
That's all right. If you send it to me in a message,
If
I'll
you
put
put
it.
Top Dog Hearts in Google,
Yeah. If you say,
yes,
well,
that's
no,
why.
we'll put it in the caption.
Yes, let's do
Yeah,
that. Let's
yeah.
be professional and put it in the caption.
Yes. And for me, as everyone would know, I'm from Be At One Dog Training, not the pub. Be At One Dog Training. Be At One Dog Training. Um, and thank you, Lex, for coming all the way from France. I feel very important.
Wow, pas de problème. Thank you, Ruth, for having me. A real pleasure chatting to you as
And I
always.
can't wait till next time.
See you soon.
See you.